All right, everybody, welcome into the High Noon stream here on the Radio Misfits podcast platform, radiomisfits.com for all your podcast needs. I am Pugs Moran. I do this show High Noon every Monday through Friday. It's a current event show, current events, hot topics, trends, whatever it is that's happening in the world, whatever it is that people are buzzing about, we try to talk about here. I apologize, a little bit of a delay. I'm watching how the sausage is made, as they say. Hey, Byron. Byron's in the chat room. Come in the chat room, everybody. Come on in, pull in. Obviously, there is a big political story going on in America today. And we don't do politics on this show. We don't do divisive politics. But this isn't I mean, this is about as divisive as it gets. But I think there's a way to cover what's happening in the United States House of Representatives right now without necessarily being a douchebag like a number of congressmen are being right now. We have elected some garbage individuals. All right. It's trending, so we'll talk about that because that's obviously the kind of thing that we do here on the show. Here's how the show works. We start out by telling you everything you need to know about today. We go through all the ins and the outs and all the things that occurred on this day in history. Then we go through the births. We celebrate some of the births of people who have made contributions to this world, who began on this day. And then we mourn a couple of the losses. And only then, after we feel completely comfortable that we have a firm grasp on what this day has represented throughout time, then we can move into the topics of today. So without further ado, what do you say we get started? And I'm going to be distracted from time to time because I got my TV set up and I'm watching CNN. And as I say, I'm watching how the sausage is made. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Ross. Jen is here. Adam is here. The goat is here. Happy New Year. Byron is here. Everybody's here. Where has Jeff been? We're missing a Jeff. I have not seen my Jeff. Not that Jeff. Jeff Ballard checking in just as I say that. Jeff, you're like my next breath. I take for granted that you're just going to be there. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. But we're looking for the other Jeff. The other Jeff has been going through some things this awful holiday season. So you know what? Mental note, I got to check in on the other Jeff. We'll be doing that today. He hasn't been around. I miss him. That's all I can say is I miss him. And besides, I'm looking at the chat room today. And although we don't do politics on this show, because the whole reason that I don't do talk radio anymore is because apparently the only two topics you're allowed to talk about are politics and sports. And for the record, I could fucking kick ass at both of those. Here's the problem. I just don't want to be hemmed in like that. That's nuts. So what we try to do with this show is give you what a talk radio show could be. Just all the different things that are going on. Things that, we can get riled up about, but not because, of how we vote when we go into that little curtain thing. Do you do a curtain thing? The last time I voted, there was a curtain. There was an actual little thing, and I went in, and it's all computerized, but anyway, okay. Oh, wait, somebody's yelling about something. Who's this? Is this Al Green?
Have enough votes that they can certainly block one. I just spoke to...
Looks like Texas Congressman Al Green is up there shouting at the clerk of the... I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. As it stands right now, you know what? No, we're not going. We'll save it. We'll save it, okay? Because there's a lot of meat on today's show. I don't know how long today's show will be, though. It could be extraordinarily long because we could maybe really get into some of these topics, or it could be kind of quick because I want to get back to my TV watching. And then, who knows? We might do pop-up shows. On occasion, we have been known to do pop-up shows when big things occur, in the day. God forbid, some sort of tragedy, some sort of, a mass shooting, a plane crash, anything like that, terrible things. We like to do little pop-up shows. So be sure and subscribe to the show there if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, and you'll get a little notification should we go live. And I don't know, it's a crazy day today. We could, there's a higher than normal likelihood that we could do a pop-up show at some point after this show. Okay, first I want to address something. About last night's show. We do two streams every day. We do this one at high noon, and I say we, because the 9 o'clock show that we also do at 9 p.m., that's me and another guy. That's James Parker. It's myself and James Parker. Pugs and Parker proudly present Pillow Talk every night at 9 o'clock. And when I say every night, I mean every night, Monday through Thursday. Last night's Pillow Talk was it was not a normal Pillow Talk show. A person who is a regular, or was for a period of time a regular on this show, passed away suddenly, and we didn't. I didn't know him. James's best friend, you may remember from the Pillow Talk shows, Rebecca, the trans woman who used to join us, Rebecca Pratt. Rebecca Pratt, in a former life, was John Osterland, who was a very popular New Orleans radio talk show host, who James Parker worked with and hosted with and co-hosted with for years down there in New Orleans. And Rebecca died. So last night's show was pretty much just about James talking about his friendship with Rebecca and how far they go back. And he worked through some emotions and all that. He held it together pretty good. So if you are interested in hearing the John Osterland, Rebecca Pratt show, you can go to pugscast.com. That's from last night. Now, because we were doing that last night, there was something that happened. I was just talking about how from time to time we like to do pop-up shows when news breaks. Well, something happened last night that we almost would have done a pop-up show for if we hadn't already been doing the Pillow Talk show. Pillow Talk is scheduled at 9 o'clock, but right about the time the Pillow Talk with Pugs and Parker was set to air, something fairly significant was happening in this country that, under other circumstances, I would have jumped on and done a pop-up show. Of course, we're talking about the Monday Night Football incident. We didn't mention it at all last night. I knew it was going on. I didn't know quite to what extent because, we signed on at 9 o'clock. But we knew something big was happening, and we didn't talk about it last night on that show simply because it was, it was all about Rebecca, who suddenly passed away last week in their home in New Orleans. Complications from diabetes, as James ranted a little bit last night, as when people we love pass away, and those of us in their lives who saw ways to maybe not have them pass away, sometimes we get frustrated. And so I think James ranted a little bit last night about his frustrations with the way Rebecca took care of herself, and knowing that she had diabetes, and knowing that these were a real possibility, although completely unexpected. So if you want to hear that show last night where James pays tribute to and talks about his great friend of all those years, Rebecca Pratt, or possibly Rebecca as John Osterland, you can listen to that show. It's pugscast.com. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into what today is. Today is high noon or thereabouts, 12:15. For the third day of January, year of our Lord, 2023. Whoa! I just realized in my notes, guess what I did? I made us all a year older. I actually wrote 2024. I'm still not getting the 2023 thing down. Yeah. Is it the third even? It is the third. Okay. That's good. Let me take a sip of coffee. I'll be right back with you. All right. So breaking news. Kevin McCarthy appears to suffer defeat on first speaker ballot. I don't know what this means. You got to have a minimum number. We'll cover it. We'll get into it. We'll get into it when we get into all the trending topics. And there's a lot, man. I mean, it's like for the last couple of weeks, because we've been stuck in this Christmas season, big news has been few and far between. There's been flash ups, pop-ups of big stories, but for the most part, nobody's working. Everybody's back to work today. And guess what? There is a lot going on. So let's get the show started. It is January 3rd. January 3rd is, can you guess, the third day of the year. There are 362 days remaining until the end of the year. So get them New Year's Eve plans started. That's right, folks. We're starting it again. Let's go through some of the some of the events of this day. On this day in 1521, Pope Leo excommunicates Martin Luther in the papal bull deceit Romanus Pontificum. I don't know what that means. Martin Luther didn't like the rules. So he said, here are the rules I don't like. And he walked up to a church door, right? And that's how story goes. And he nailed him. He said, these are the things I want changed. And the Pope said, nope, you're out of here. On this day in 1521. On this day in 1777, American General George Washington, I've heard of him. I hear he's good. He defeated British General Lord Cornwallis at the Battle of Princeton. On this day in 1777. On this day in 1944, during World War II, U.S. flying ace Major Greg Pappy Boeington is shot down in his F-4U Corsair by Captain Masahiro Kawato. Yeah, and I'm not being racist or anything. I'm just trying to give the pronunciation its proper respect. I do that with all names, you jerk. Yeah, Pappy Boeington. You remember Pappy Boeington? Pappy Boeington was played by, who was that guy? He was such a douche. He was such a douche actor from the 70s. Robert Conrad. Well, was it Robert Conrad? William Conrad. Wait a second. Which one was canon? One of them was a big fat guy. And then the other guy was the Duracell back. Go ahead, knock it off, punk. You're a bitch boy actor. Stop acting tough, that dude. Anyway. Remember Black Sheep Squadron? That was a show in the 70s. Starred Robert Conrad as a tough guy. He played Pappy Boeington. Anyway, it was on this day that Pappy Boeington got shot down. On this day in 1947, proceedings, on the United States Congress floor are televised for the very first time. Would you look at that? We've come full circle. On this day in 1947, for the very first time, cameras were allowed inside the United States Congress. And guess what we're doing at this very moment? I've moved a special TV into the room so that I can watch the live proceedings on television from the floor of the United States Congress. On this day in 1959, Alaska is admitted as the 49th state of the Union. Oh, that's it. Let's close up. Here's what they did. They admitted Alaska. They made Alaska a state and they went 49. And they were all looking around. They're like, man, 49 sounds like how many territories or states a shitty place would have. We need a nice round number. So then apparently they went out and got Hawaii. I really think that that's the reason that Puerto Rico has been slow rolled for like the last 40 years. Puerto Rico should be a state. There's no reason Puerto Rico shouldn't be a state. Puerto Rico's they should be a state, but they're not. And I'm telling you, it's because aesthetically, 51 doesn't seem as good as 50. Could we get maybe, what would be good? 4 more. Let's get Puerto Rico and 4 more. 55. 55 is a good number, but 51. Nobody wants to have 51 states. On this day in 1961, so happy birthday, Alaska. Welcome to the country. On this day in 1959, Alaska, 49th state. On this day in 1961, during the Cold War, after a series of economic retaliations against one another, the United States severs all economic ties with Cuba. That's right, economic and diplomatic, I should say. They don't have anything to do with them. Cuba. Is that still the deal? Steal the deal. What's that? Is that still the deal? Like, what's our deal with Cuba? Like, can we go there? I know we got a whole bunch of Cuban baseball players. I don't know. I hang out with a bunch of rich guys. They always got like Cuban cigars. So, I mean, what is our status with Cuba right now? On this day in 1977, happy birthday to Apple Computers. Apple Computers incorporated for the very first time on this day in 1977. On this day in 1990, the United States invasion of Panama. Today is the day that Manuel Noriega, former leader of Panama, surrenders to American forces. Old Pineapple Face. This is the day we got Old Pineapple Face in custody. Is he dead? I don't even know. Is he dead? Manuel Noriega? He seems like he should be dead, right? But maybe not. Like, how old was he in 1990? Let's see. Manuel Noriega. Yeah, he's dead. All right, good. He died. Whatever. He seemed like a bad guy. He didn't seem like someone we should necessarily be rooting for. He died. He died in 2017. Let's go through some birthdays. There's some big birthdays being celebrated today on this day in 106 BC. Cicero was born. That's right. The famous Roman orator, philosopher, politician. He was a very important guy back there in Rome. Cicero. And now, like, the skankiest, most corrupt border suburb of Chicago is named after Cicero. Cicero is, here's what Cicero is, the town in Chicago. Cicero is a town that's basically in Chicago, but it was unincorporated land back in the 20s. So Al Capone bought all the land and said, all right, Chicago cops can't bug me here because now this is my town. And they named it Cicero. It was basically where Capone had his headquarters. I mean, it was, for all intents and purposes, Cicero is still Chicago. It's just not. It's just not. It's its own thing. And it is super corrupt. It is super mobbed up. Still, to this day, really skanky. Not dangerous necessarily if you're an Italian American. I mean, it's not dangerous in that way. If you're not from that neighborhood, yeah, you might not want to hang out there. And actually, you know what? I bet you can hang out there because they got restaurants and stuff like that. But here's the thing. You don't want to be mouthy with opinions because, someone could overhear you and then kill you. What else happened? On this day in 1840, Father Damien was born. You know who Father Damien is? Saint Damien. Saint Damien. He's the priest who went and moved to Hawaii and took care of all the lepers. That's right. He was born on this day in 1840. Born on this day in 1892, J.R.R. Tolkien, English writer, poet, and philologist. The hell is a Lord of the Rings guy, the Hobbit dude, right? This is who he is. J.R.R. Tolkien, the Hobbit guy. I'm not a big Hobbit guy. I'm sorry, I'm not. I know I should be because, in the 70s is when that shit was all popping off and I was like a little kid then and I should have totally embraced the Hobbit, but I was like, nah. I was more interested at like 8 years old. I was more interested in what was going on with like Starsky and Hutch, I think, than I was the Hobbit. The Hobbit it wasn't gritty enough. The Hobbit wasn't gritty enough. Not enough pimps in the gunfights in The Hobbit. But he was born on this day, and he's important to a lot of people. So there you go. J.R.R. Tolkien, English writer, poet, and philologist, which I'm going to have to look up. I don't know what a philologist is. George Martin, born on this day in 1926. George Martin. George Martin's a fascinating guy. Oh, sophisticated, elegant, classy, revered, respected. I mean, just George Martin. George Martin's dead. George Martin was the Beatles producer. George Martin was the uptight British man, proper British man in the nice suits. When you look, here's the thing about George Martin. When you look at depictions of George Martin working in the studio with the Beatles, you see the Beatles and they look like the Beatles, but then you see George Martin and he looks like an accountant. He looks like he came from a different era, but that's only through our lens. George Martin, in that time, when he walked into that room, he didn't look to their eyes like an accountant. He looked like a really, like he stepped right off the pages of GQ. Like, in other words, George Martin wasn't, because he was wearing a suit and tie all the time. Everybody wore suits and ties all the time, but there were differences in styles. George Martin was considered like a real fashion play. Like Paul McCartney said, when I grow up, I just want to be able to dress and buy clothes like George Martin. George Martin was a fashion guy. Anyway, so he wasn't that old fuddy-duddy that I think I used to think of him as. Maybe you people didn't, but whenever I was younger and I was watching Beatles documentaries, it always appeared to me that George Martin was this old fuddy-duddy compared to the Brits, to the Beatles. And he wasn't. He was just like a cool dude in his 30s. He was just like a really sharp, really cool, sophisticated, elegant man. And anyway, if you want to learn more about George Martin, a couple of months ago, I saw a documentary called Under the Volcano. If you like music documentaries, Under the Volcano is fantastic. Around 1977, 1976, somewhere in the 1970s, after the Beatles had broken up and after George Martin was already like a god of the recording industry, he decided that he wanted to do something different. So he bought like an island in the middle of, I don't know, the Caribbean or something somewhere. Nope, that's not going to happen. Hold on, folks. Sorry. I don't know when my screen just went out on my stupid computer. Oh, because I haven't touched it. That's why. Hold on. So George Martin, there was a documentary made about what he did after he left the Beatles. And what he did was he bought an island and built a recording studio there. And the documentary is called Under the Volcano. And it's just about George Martin's recording studio in like St. Bart's or somewhere. I don't know, somewhere in the Caribbean. Is St. Bart's in the Caribbean? I don't even know. I'm not rich. I don't jet set in that part of the world. But it's really good. It's really good, and it's eye-opening because, man, George Martin's studio, the bands that came through there between like 1977 and 1990, man, unbelievable. I mean, first of all the big ones for Bowie and Elton John, but the Police cut Synchronicity there, and it's a great documentary. It's a really good one if you enjoy music, history, rock music documentaries. Under the Volcano, the story of how George Martin started a studio in the middle of the Caribbean, and everybody wanted to go there for 6 weeks and record their albums. George Martin, born on this day in 1926. He died in 2016. George Martin's a cool dude. That's all I'm saying. I'll leave you with that. George Martin's a cool dude. Also born on this day in 1929, Sergio Leone. You like the spaghetti Western films? Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more. Good, the Bad, the Ugly. Wait, is that Sergio? It is, right? Yeah. Sergio Leone, spaghetti Westerns. Born on this day in 1937, Glenn A. Larson, American director, producer, and screenwriter. Reason I mentioned Glenn A. Larson is because he was pivotal in Battlestar Galactica, which the reboot of Battlestar Galactica still remains in my top 5 of the greatest television series ever produced. Happy birthday to you, Glenn Larson, who died a bunch of years ago. Sorry, I just realized that he died. Born on this day in 1945, somebody that my Pugs and Parker partner has no idea who he is. Stephen Stills, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen Stills, multiple Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. I believe Stephen Stills is in for Buffalo Springfield. I believe Stephen Stills is in for Crosby, Stills, and Nash. So that would be 2. There you go. Born on this day in 1946, 1 year after Stephen Stills, another member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How about John Paul Jones, ladies and gentlemen? John Paul Jones, bass player for Led Zeppelin. That's right. He's the one in Led Zeppelin you don't know. He's the one in Led Zeppelin not named Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, or John Bonham. He's the other guy, and he's just as rich. He made probably not just as much, I think. I don't know how they broke it down. But he's still in Led Zeppelin, so good for him. Born on this day in 1950. What's going on here? Why is my TV... All right, so we're going to have to reconnect now to the TV. Born on this day in 1950, this is the first woman that I had a crush on. Like, as a kid, I was never I was never really into Farrah Fawcett and like the Charlie's Angels. Like, I think I was programmed to believe that I should be into them. So maybe to a degree, I pretended a little bit. I don't know. I like young, there were girls, like my crushes were all age appropriate, right? Then Victoria Principal showed up. Victoria Principal is celebrating a birthday today, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Was she Pam Ewing on Dallas? Oh my God. It wasn't even Dallas that did it to me because I didn't watch Dallas as a kid. I didn't care about that. That didn't seem like anything I was interested in. She did a series of health club commercials in the 1980s where she was just wearing like one of those one-piece workout things. And these commercials were on TV all the time. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, that's a woman. And I'm attracted to first one. So there you go. Victoria Principal, happy birthday. First, I would say probably first woman. All the other one were, they were like in 20, 21, 19. Like that was but Victoria Principal was like a 30-year-old woman. And I was like, wow, that's different. She would eat me up. Well, I was 11, so they would all eat me up, but let's be honest. Born on this day in 1952, Jim Ross, American professional wrestling commentator. People love the Jim Ross. I've interviewed Jim Ross a couple of times. Really good guy. Like just a really nice kind of, he is what he is. It's not an act. He's really fun and high energy. Jim Ross, happy birthday to you. Born on this day in 1952. Born on this day in 1956, Mel Gibson, ladies and gentlemen, American/Australian actor, director, producer, and screenwriter. Mel Gibson, ladies and gentlemen, Mel Gibson draft. That's right, the very first draft of the 2023 season. is going to be a Mel Gibson draft. From time to time, we do drafts on this show where I like to just sort of take the collective works of a person and give you the top 5 draft picks. Who I'd take first, who I'd take second. So let's do that with Mad Max Mel Gibson. Let's run through my drafts for Mel Gibson. In the first round of the Mel Gibson draft, me, Pugs Moran, I take, well, I blew it, didn't I? Mad Max! Mad Max goes number 1 off the board. Number 2 in the Mel Gibson draft, Braveheart. Braveheart goes number 2. Number 3, bit of a reach, but I'm known to do that from time to time in my mid-round draft picks. Conspiracy Theory. That's right, Conspiracy Theory comes off the board at number 4 in the Mel Gibson draft. The 5th and final pick in the Mel Gibson draft, we only do a 5-round draft for these things. The 5th and final pick in the Mel Gibson draft is going to M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's much misunderstood Signs. Signs. Which even I have issues with Signs, but man, is that a good movie. Signs comes off the board at 5. So the Mad Max at 1, Braveheart at 2, Lethal Weapon at 3, Conspiracy Theory at 4, and Signs at 5. But don't worry, he's got a filmography that just doesn't quit. So we are inviting some people to camp. Some undrafted free agents will be getting invites. Let's go to Mad Max Road Warrior. Mad Max 2. The Road Warrior gets an invite to camp. The Bounty with Anthony Hopkins. The Bounty gets invited. Gallipoli, man. If you guys have never seen Gallipoli, he was still an Australian actor. It's like an Australian war film. Gallipoli is so good. Gallipoli comes off the board. One of my favorite war films. Lethal Weapon 2 is going to get a camp invite. Lethal Weapon 2, that was fun. Ransom is going to get a camp invite. Ransom. And finally, the last one getting a camp invite in the Mel Gibson draft is, and I make this finally because he wasn't in it. He was a voice. Chicken Run. Ladies and gentlemen, Chicken Run is so great. I love Chicken Run. There you go. That concludes our Mel Gibson draft. Whew, I'm out of breath. Hold on, I gotta fix my TV. I don't know why this board's whatever. The internet, they got us addicted to this stuff, and then they're not 100% sure how it all works, and sometimes unexplained things happen, and that's what's happening right now. We're back. All right. More birthdays today. Born on this day in 1969, until recently, the GOAT of Formula One, Michael Schumacher, German racing driver. Michael Schumacher, born on this day. And I say till recently because let's not kid ourselves. Lewis Hamilton is the GOAT of F1. Michael Schumacher is the second GOAT. And there can't be a second GOAT. Whatever. Born on this day in 1975, Danica McKellar. I guess it's just McKellar. American actress and this is crazy, mathematician. She's like a super genius with the numbers. She's like, the rest girls her age were going off to cheerleading camp. She was going off to like numbers camp. She was Danica McKellar. Oh, she was a Wonder Years, right? What was her name in Wonder Years? What was her name? Winnie Cooper. That's it. Thank you. Winnie Cooper from Wonder Years. She was cute. And now she's like a super math genius. Her and Blossom, who is it? Mayim Bialik. She became like a genius in something too. Born on this day in 1981, not Elle Fanning, Eli Manning. That's right. America's little brother, Eli Manning. Born on this day in 81. Born on this day in 1996, Florence Pugh. I don't know how to say her last name. She's that young actress that's getting all the buzz. Everybody loves her. It's spelled, is it Pugh? It's P. Her last name is P-U-G-H. P-U-G. Florence P-U-G-H. Florence Pugh. I don't even know how to say it. That's a terrible name. All right, and now we'll round it out with a couple of kids celebrating a birthday today. I think it's incumbent upon all of us to try and get these two together. They'd heal the world. They're both turning 20 on this day. Ladies and gentlemen, they couldn't be more different. How did they fall in love? Greta Thunberg and Kyle Rittenhouse, both turning 20 years old today. Oh, it should be all of our goal to get these two together. Greta Thunberg, climate activist, Swedish environmentalist, whatever. Kyle Rittenhouse. What did he do? He's a white trash kid from a white trash suburb of Chicago who got involved in some things, and he was acquitted, and now he's what? Apparently he's famous for that. Whatever. All right, let's get into some deaths. Some people who passed away on this day. Dead on this day in 1903. The world lost a good one. Actually, I don't know. This man might be in the running for most toxic sperm of all time. Aloy Hitler, ladies and gentlemen, father of Adolf Hitler, died on this day in 1903. Dead on this day in 1967, Jack Ruby, American businessman, Dallas entrepreneur, associate of the Chicago outfit, shot and killed Lee Harvey Oswald. Why? We don't know. America was a better place when that was the only conspiracy theory that we were all. When that was conspiracy theory number one, Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald. When that was, actually, was that ever number one? Wasn't always just the assassination of Kennedy in general number one? I don't know. Anyway, Jack Ruby died on this day in 1967. Cancer, right? I think so. Died in prison. Dead on this day in 2014, Phil Everly, American singer and guitarist, part of the Everly Brothers. And dead on this day in 2019, Herb Kelleher, American businessman, co-founder of Southwest Airlines. Oh boy, you look at Herb Kelleher's grave the last few days, you see some dust popping up because that boy be spinning in his box. He does not like the way Southwest Airlines has been handling things the last couple of weeks. Herb Kelleher, really revered, a businessman. What he did. Hey man, I love Southwest Airlines, and I think a lot of it has to do with some of the innovations that old Herb Kelleher put into effect. He died on this day in 2019. All right. So let's get into some of the things that are trending today. Hi, Al. Do we feel like, is Jack Ruby buried in Chicago? They move him back. Well, I know he's from there. He was an outfit guy, or at least an outfit associate. At least had some business dealings with Sam Momo Giancana, but we can talk about that. But why? We got much bigger things to talk about today. Okay, so first and foremost, we have the Damar Hamlin situation. Let's see what the latest is. Damar Hamlin is trending. Of course he is. Damar Hamlin is the safety for the Buffalo Bills, who last night in the first quarter, you know what? Here, let me pull this up. Let me give me a second here to do something properly so that we can, because I'm just gonna, look, if you want to know the news on this, he's in critical condition. He's in a hospital in Cincinnati. There is no like update, at least not that I've seen come out in the last couple of hours. So I'm just gonna talk about it because I watched it live, and then I had to pull away. And then after the Pillow Talk show that we did last night, I went back in my room and I watched it all again unfold on tape. All right, so yesterday in the first quarter, and human beings are complicated, okay? We can have multiple emotions and multiple thoughts going on at the same time, okay? Let's keep that in mind. I had been waiting for that game last night for, I don't know, a few days. Oh, wow, look at that. Monday night is Buffalo and Cincinnati. Holy crap, that's going to be a game. I think a lot of us who consume more football than is probably good for us, we were probably all thinking about that game last night. Oh, it's going to be a great game. So I start watching the game. I start getting into it, and and then in the first quarter, T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals makes a catch across the middle. And he makes his football move, makes his turn, starts to advance the ball upfield, and is immediately met by safety Damar Hamlin. of the Buffalo Bills. Big hit. Big hit. It was a hit. It was a big hit. It was a collision, but certainly not the biggest hit that I've seen. I mean, I saw bigger hits. Saw a lot of. I mean, it wasn't that big of a hit. It wasn't a hit that would make you go, oh my God. To the extent that while the camera in the immediate aftermath of the hit hung on the two players, so we saw the aftermath of the collision. What the camera showed us was both players get up immediately. And then the camera moved over to the sideline. There was something going on the side. There was some pushing and shoving or something going on one of the far sidelines. So then Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, who were calling the game, they said, oh, wait, we have a Buffalo Bills player down. And then the camera went back to over where the player was, and we saw Damar Hamlin laying on the ground. And I didn't think anything of it. In fact, I didn't even put together that that's the guy that just made the tackle. I thought that was a guy at another part of the field that was involved in some play, got rolled up on something, football injury kind of thing. So because of the injury timeout, they take a commercial and they go to a commercial break. And it's a regular, Geico or don't turn into your parents, whatever the NFL. Hey, I'm Patrick Mahomes for insurance. They're all insurance commercials. They are all insurance. Like that's the only. So they come back from the commercial break, and it's not the typical rejoin from a commercial break to Monday Night Football. The typical rejoin is an establishing shot of the city, maybe people partying, waving to the camera, and then some big graphic Monday Night Football. And sometimes there's music bringing us back in. There was none of that. So that was the first thing that I thought, oh, this is weird. So they come back in from commercial, and it's just silence. It's just a static shot of the field. And was it Lisa Salter? Yes, I believe it was Lisa Salter, the sideline reporter, who was the first voice we heard out of the commercial break. That was the first thing that made me go, that's weird. That is weird. That never happens. It's the people in the booth will say, welcome back to Monday Night Football. Let's go down to the sideline. Lisa Salter. Lisa, what do you have for it? That's how they do it. But in this instance, it struck me as odd because there was quiet. There was no big rejoin. Monday Night Football. Are you ready for some football? There was none of that. It was just commercial. I'm Lisa Salters on the sideline. And that was weird. It struck me as weird. And then it got really serious. It started to get really serious because that's when they immediately showed what happened that we didn't see. Remember, I told you T. Higgins runs over the middle. Damar Harden makes the hit. They both pop up instantly. Camera moves over to the sideline because there's some pushing and shoving going on. Well, there was another camera that stayed on them. And when they came back from that commercial break, they showed us the shot of what happened. They showed us the hit one more time. Then they showed both T. Higgins and Damar Hamlin stand up, get up. Damar Hamlin bounced right back up. It was like almost like instinct takes over, right? So like, boom, he bounces right back up. He looks fine. And then we see it for the first time. It's the first time we've seen it. We didn't see it when it happened live because remember there was pushing and shoving over on the sideline, so they had to cover that. He just fell backwards. He just collapsed. He made the tackle. Big hit. Pops right back up. And then starts to waver and then falls backwards. And nobody even thought to catch him. I mean, there were people standing around, but it was just, that was disturbing. That was really disturbing because when he fell, he didn't move. It's not like he stood up and went, oh my God, I got to lay down, like that. No, it was, he stood up and then his body went and completely powered down and he was down there. And then the next thing that I thought was strange was they started to show at this point, he was completely surrounded and they were obviously working on him. But they showed this, and this I had never seen before. Football's a brutal sport. Most of us have played it. We've seen injuries. Hell, some of us have probably even been injured, right? So football players see other players get injured all the time. And maybe they take a knee, maybe they hold hands, maybe they form prayer circles, whatever it is. We've come to expect that. And then, we always expect the guy to pop right back up. And worst case scenario, he's being taken off on the back of a cart and he gives the thumbs up. Possibly even he walks off on his own. Sometimes, he'll walk off and people will be carrying whatever the situation. That wasn't the situation this time. And it wasn't necessarily seeing focus on players in prayer circles, although by this point, the entirety of the Buffalo Bills team was surrounding him as he lay there on the ground being worked on by first responders. This is what we saw. And this is a thing that I have never seen before in any sport. And this is when it all kind of changed for me. It got weird.
And just seeing the...
So these are the players. This is they came back from the break and they showed us the Buffalo Bill players.
Teammates go down.
I have never seen this in sports before. I have never seen players crying like this because of what they've just witnessed. Now, what did they just witness? For the first time, I think, in the history of NFL, I don't know, you could check on this, but I've never seen this before. In the very early moments of Damar Hamlin going down, the first people on the scene recognized that he was in cardiac arrest, that his heart had stopped. Now, we've seen people with neck injuries. We've seen them bring the backboard out. And again, we've seen the players look very concerned. We've never seen this. We've never seen... What the hell is going on? There's some noise coming out outside. We've never seen players react this way. And why are they reacting this way? Because after discovering he was in cardiac arrest, these football players actually watched their teammate, Damar Hamlin, be given the pads, pulmonary resuscitation, CPR. They'd never seen that before. It was at that point when they saw them, when these players saw their teammate being shocked back to life this is the reaction. This is when they knew this wasn't just a broken bone. This is something really serious. This guy may have just dropped dead. And it's not like we've never seen it in sports in general. We saw it with Hank Gathers, Loyola Marymount. We saw a basketball player just drop dead on the field, or on the court, I should say. So this was very... When I saw this, I went, oh. And again, you have to understand, when we're seeing this, what we're watching right here, we still haven't gotten any information. We don't know. Troy and Joe Buck, they haven't told us what they're saying on the sideline. All they've said is that now they're revealing that he's receiving CPR, which on a football field, which is absolutely... Someone is receiving CPR. And they didn't even talk about the shot. We didn't learn that until much later. Last night. So, and again, the thing that a lot of people are saying is, they're like, it didn't look like that bad of a hit. What, did you ever see Dale Earnhardt's death crash? Dale Earnhardt drives into a wall at the Indy 500, and you look at his accident and you go, okay, well, shitty day for him. You don't think that kills him. You don't think. So, look, the body is very complicated. Who knows? All right, so then they go on for what seemed like an eternity, guys. It was a good... I mean, at one point, they're like, it's now been 40 minutes since Damar Hamlin went down. The other thing that we saw that I don't remember ever seeing at a professional sporting event, we saw the ambulance on the field. Now, I've seen ambulances on the field at high school football games. I've seen that. I've never seen it in the pros, where they actually drive the ambulance out there onto the field to be as close as possible to. It took a while. I think the timeline says that the accident or the hit occurred at 7:55 Central Time, and he wasn't removed in the ambulance until like 8:25, which people are saying that's a full half hour they were working on him. Well, everybody's a doctor in these moments, right? We all become experts, especially with social media. So a lot of people were saying the NFL is responsible for killing him. And then you get the actual doctors, or people claiming to be actual doctors. And the reason that I'm reading, at least, and look, I even saw Sanjay Gupta, and I trust him. Why do you trust him? Just shut up, because he's a doctor and he went to school and he read books that I didn't read and he memorized them and then took tests on them, and he can do stuff that I can't do. I know that. Sanjay Gupta said that you don't move if somebody is in the situation that he's in with the heart. It is procedure to get the heart started before you move them. You can get the heart started. They have the portable shockers and all that kind of stuff. You don't take a guy who's just had a heart attack and get him into the ambulance and take him away right away. You apparently it's procedure to do whatever you can to get that heart started right there in that moment, because every second that heart is not beating, you are having, you're depriving oxygen to your brain, thus brain damage. We're talking about brain damage. So apparently they got his heart restarted. And then the other thing that was interesting, his mom, they were waiting for his mom, who was in the stadium, to come down and ride in the ambulance with him. And that I thought was, I had a couple of different thoughts on that. My immediate thought was, holy shit, is he dying? And I had that thought too, after seeing the video. And I know that a lot of you did too. After the way he just collapsed, I went, holy shit, did we just watch a man die? Did he just die? And yeah, for probably a split second, he was technically dead if he had no heartbeat and no blood flowing and no. So I thought his mom coming down, is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? Is it a bad thing that he is so bad that next of kin needs to be with him immediately? I also thought, well, maybe this is, if they're waiting for the mom, maybe it must not be that big of a hurry. Maybe it's not as bad. I don't know. Anyway, he was rushed to a hospital. He was listed in critical condition. He is still in a Cincinnati hospital. Here, let's see. I'll give you I may as well give you the right. I was planning on just talking about it because I assume that we all know what the all right, here's the story. Bill's safety. All right. Bill's safety, DeMar Hamlin, has cardiac arrest on field. NFL suspends game versus the Bengals. That's the other thing. So it got to be like 45 minutes of a delay. And with this, they can't. And we started to hear more and more. And again, seeing the players' reactions. And I started to think, can they play this game? Can they? Because again, remember how I started this whole thing out talking about how people are complicated. We are complicated. We can have multiple different, emotions going on at once. It's decency in the way you were raised, in the sort of moral anchor that you were given, that allows you to prioritize what is more important. But you can have different emotions. For instance, I wanted the game to continue. Very selfishly, very detached. One side of my emotional scale was weighing, I've been waiting days for this game. Can't they play? Now, the other side of me was saying, you can't play this fucking game. You can't. These guys, look at these guys. This is totally unfair to them. These guys are crying. They are shook. These guys are professional athletes. They have to get into a warrior headspace to play this game. And I just don't see how that's possible right now. So do you see how you can have two things? Like, there was a part of me that was selfishly like, oh, what do you mean they're going to cancel the game? Now, because I was raised properly and because I have morality and I have decency, the side that said they can't play this game definitely won that argument internally, right? But it existed. There was a part of me that was like, well, I was really excited to watch football. But again, the more powerful side, because of the way I was raised, because I have a moral anchor, more important side of me, the more decision was made that moving forward, I would be okay with the game not being played. Here we go. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin is in critical condition in a Cincinnati hospital after collapsing on the field with cardiac arrest Monday night in a game against the Bengals that was postponed. Never saw that happening. They postponed an NFL game. Good. I mean, good. Now look, the NFL is, the thing took them an hour to cancel the game. Oh, shut up. It took them an hour because you need to get information. They should have just canceled it the minute he dropped. Are you fucking kidding me? They should have just canceled it the minute he dropped. Okay. All right. You're not realistic. And I did think, because again, mind is racing and you're thinking all kinds of things. When they canceled the game, when they said finally, okay, this game is over. This game is not going to be played. At first it was suspended. It said temporary. Monday Night Football has been temporarily suspended. It said on the scroll. And then they just ended it. Then they just postponed it. And when they postponed it, I went, okay, all right, yeah, it's the right thing. It is absolutely the right thing. This is not about sport. It is not about fandom. This is about a young man who is quite literally fighting for his life at this very moment. So let's all try and focus on that and understand that, there are things that are more important in life than, whether or not your team gets a first round bye in the playoffs. So in the moment, that's the decision that was made. But I thought, what if this was the Super Bowl? I mean, what if this is it's an interesting precedent that the NFL put out there yesterday, and that is that they canceled the game. This was an important game. This wasn't some garbage game. This wasn't the Chicago Bears versus the Atlanta Falcons. This was two extremely good teams, two Super Bowl contenders, two teams that are battling it out for position there in the postseason, and they canceled it. So that's got a lot of people freaking out. A lot of people, here we are in the light of day. But what about the Bills getting a first round bye? What about the Bengals having like that? Okay, I understand that. Fandom is fandom. But what if it was the Super Bowl? Like, what if that happened in the first quarter of the Super Bowl? Do they still cancel it? I mean, first of all, a Monday night football game is a step up from just a regular Sunday afternoon noon start, right? So if you're just playing your games at noon on a Sunday, like 16 others, like 5 or 6 other games going on, they cancel it, they move on. This is Monday Night Football. This is a showcase game, which means advertising dollars have been spent, promotions have been, it's a bigger game than a regular game, but a Super Bowl is the biggest game. So I thought about that. I was like, would they cancel the Super Bowl if this happened in the first quarter? Or would they come up with some, Jocko meatball kind of thing? Nah, we got to pull it together and we're going to do it for tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, you can do that. But really, it's just because you've already sold the commercial time, right? At like $2 million for 30 seconds because the Super Bowl ads are crazy and they got to run or else, Multiple Bills and Bengals players gathered around Hamlin in extreme concern as he was down and being helped by athletic trainers after he collapsed following a tackle. Hamlin took a big hit in the chest area during the first quarter in a collision with Bengals receiver T. Higgins, who was running upfield after a catch. Hamlin got up after the play, but then suddenly collapsed. Reporters at the stadium said Hamlin was given CPR on the field more than 15 minutes passed from the time Hamlin collapsed to when he was taken off the field. Let's see here. The game was suspended a little after 10 p.m. Eastern time for the night, without an immediate update on whether or when the game would be played. The NFL put out a statement that said in part that Hamlin was in critical condition at a local hospital. Here's a statement from the NFL last night. Tonight's Buffalo Bills-Cincinnati Bengals games has been postponed after Buffalo Bills' Damar Hamlin collapsed. Hamlin received immediate medical attention on the field by team and independent medical staff and local paramedics. He was then transported to local hospital where he is in critical condition. Our thoughts are with DeMar and the Buffalo Bills. We will provide more information as it becomes available. The NFL has been in constant communication with the NFL Players Association, which is in agreement with postponing this game. All right. So he's still in the hospital. They postponed the game. Also, the NFL has announced just within the last few minutes, the NFL has announced that they are not going to reschedule the game for this week. There was some talk that they could possibly play on Thursday, that they could do like a double Thursday night game, which would then mean that their last game, so here was the scenario. So what they could have done is the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals could have just played Thursday night. They could have played Thursday night, just a couple of days delay from their Monday night game. And then they would do the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals would play their final game of the year, which is scheduled for Sunday. They would play those games Monday night. So there would be multiple games on Monday night. Anyway, the NFL said, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. So there is no word on whether or not the game will be played, because just taking the human emotion out of it, the way that the season and the playoff seedings and all that stuff works is these games need to be played. There needs to be we got one more week left in the season. There isn't a lot of time. The playoffs begin a week from Sunday. So, the NFL's, they're going to have to get their best math brains together, and they're going to have to figure out how to, is it a tie? Is it a no contest? Or has there ever been a no contest? How does that look in the standings? What does that do to playoff placement? Anyway, that's a thing that a lot of people are now talking about, and many others are still talking about Damar Hamlin. So keep a good thought for that young man. He's 24 years old. Never heard of him. Never heard of him before last night. Now know everything about him. I know everything there is to know about this kid. And let me tell you, he seems like a good kid. I watched a whole bunch of interviews with him. He seems like a really good dude. And it's not just like saying that, like, oh, now that he's in the public spotlight for having gone through something terrible and we're all sending our thoughts and prayers, obviously you're going to watch his video and you're going to go, he seems like a good, no, independently of all that, he seems like a fun kid. He seems like a nice, loves his family, really big on his mom. I mean, he's just 24-year-old kid. Keep a good thought. Here's a fun little side aspect of how these things tend to play out in today's world. So Damar Hamlin had a toy drive fundraiser on what was it? Like GoFundMe or something like that. He was trying to raise money, or he's got a charity that raises money around Christmas time to give presents to kids, poor kids in need, kids like him. He grew up in need. He grew up a poor kid. This is what he wants to do for Christmas. And so he started this foundation, and they had a fundraising goal of $2,500, which seems like a strange amount. But it was a fundraising goal of $2,500. They were trying to fund a toy drive for one specific community center, right? So it was like, here, they just need $2,500. I want to promote this. Bills Nation, Bills Mafia, get behind it. So as of last night before the hit, they were at $2,500. They had made the number. So that was good. So they made the number that they set up on their GoFundMe. This morning, remember, last night it was $2,500. This morning, there's $4 million in that fund. $4 million. He was only looking for $2,500. Do you know how many toys they can buy for kids with $4 million? Anyway, that's what happens. Everybody went, they Googled him, they found this GoFundMe page for this toy drive, and in his name, everybody donated. So it went from $2,500 to $4,000 overnight. Well, people are surprising. All right, so let me see what's happening here. Hold on, let me turn this back on, because obviously we're going to get into some dicey stuff here. I don't want to see anybody in the... What is this? What's happening here? Is this thing even working? Why is this working? Come on. Trying to get the TV back up. Obviously, Kevin McCarthy is trending. Congressman, Representative Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy is trying to become Speaker of the House. And he should be Speaker of the House. He should just be on sheer numbers. When the GOP retook the House pretty narrowly, I believe it's 4 votes, Pelosi steps down and a new leader of the Congress from the party that has the most votes. Well, actually, that's not how it works. They actually just vote for a new speaker, but typically they vote along party lines. So the party that has the numbers, just in sheer party numbers, they typically get the speaker. So if the Republicans control the House, there's typically going to be a Republican speaker. If the Democrats control the House, I don't have to go through remedial U.S. Oh, look at Matt Gaetz. Look at old Quagmire, giggity. Look at him. Oh, he's throwing a monkey wrench into a democracy like nobody else. We'll get into him. He's doing some funny stuff. Anyway, so Kevin McCarthy should be the speaker, but there are so many people within the GOP. The GOP's congressional members do not like each other. They don't like each other at all, which could be a legislative problem moving forward, because on the other side, even like the crazies on the other side tend to get in line when, and don't kid yourself, there are crazies on both sides. But honestly, I'd say about 70% of all members of the United States Congress are just bullshit con men, but I digress. Ooh, Ocasio-Cortez wearing one of them cute, tight blue dress. I think she's so attractive. Who else we got? I'm looking at all these people on the floor. Yeah, I can think she's attractive and not think she's a particularly good congressman. See, I can have multiple. Again, people are complicated. You can have a whole bunch of different things. I think Lauren Boebert's hot. Yeah, I don't particularly think she's a good congressman, whatever. So Kevin McCarthy's trying to get the votes, but his people aren't voting for him, and they just took the first vote. Now you need a number. What's the number? I don't know. You need like some minimal number. Holy shit. 19 Republicans in the first vote. Remember, they only have a 4-vote lead. 19 Republicans voted against Kevin McCarthy on the first vote. The turnout of the first vote for the next United States Speaker of the House, the first round of voting turned out Representative from New York, Hakeem Jeffries, won the first round, 212 votes. Kevin McCarthy was second with 203. Arizona Congressman Biggs, I don't know, Haas Biggs, I don't know what the fuck his name, Andy Biggs, is that it? I don't know. He received 10, and then 9 people who were not even thrown into nomination received 9 votes. So 10 for Biggs, 9 for others, 203 for McCarthy, 212 for Jeffries. The United States Congress is going to vote again. See, right now, if you're watching this, and I'm watching it, you're seeing this is where the deals are being done. People are canoodling. They're getting into corners. They're saying, okay, you voted against me here. How do I get you to vote for me? All of that stuff is going on. But it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day because of a group of voters led by, apparently, Matt Gaetz of Florida. Matt Gaetz of Florida does not like McCarthy. Don't know why he doesn't like McCarthy, but he doesn't like him. And he has sort of gotten a whole group of these fringe congressmen from the Republican Party. And yeah, these are all fringy people. So he's gotten a whole bunch of them to break from voting for Kevin McCarthy. And Matt Gaetz apparently said this morning he will vote for Hakeem Jeffries before he votes for Speaker, not yet, Kevin McCarthy. So this is what's happening in the United States Congress today. We're trying to figure out who the next Speaker of the House is going to be. And it's a clusterfuck because the Republicans can't get their shit together. It really is. That's not a divisive thing. That is really a thing. You should be, right now we should be done. It should have been first vote. You guys control the House. You guys can't even vote your own guy to lead the House. You're going to fuck around and get a Democrat in there. This is what you're going to do. You're going to have a Republican majority, and you're going to have a Democrat in the speaker's chair again, appointing all the chairmen to all the different committees. That's the job of the speaker. That's what you want. You want to run the House because you want to be able to have all of your top people in charge of all the committees. All right, here we go. What do we got? We got another vote going here. Hold on a second. Let's listen. Let's see what they're saying.
And so it's just untenable that the idea that he would have any leverage, to say nothing of the fact that a lot of people simply don't respect him. And it's not just members of the Freedom Caucus.
Yeah, I just want to return to what Alyssa said.
All right, never mind. I guess they're not restarting. This is going to be going on all day long. So get your popcorn. All right. What else do we have here? Trending. Okay, so this is also trending. Like I said, man, a lot of big news stories that we got to get into. Brian Koberger. I don't give a shit. I'm not even trying to properly pronounce this son of a bitch's last name. The kid who is accused, he's like a 29-year-old guy. Sorry. The guy who's accused of murdering those 4 children, and them I will call children because I don't care if they were 21 and 20. They were still college kids. They're kids. Murdered the 4 kids there in Moscow, Idaho. Look, I've been on this story from the very beginning. I've been just obsessed with it. I've been reading every little thing. I've even found myself on Reddit, reading some Reddit bullshit, which really means I've fallen down a bunny hole. He did it. I mean, if you're asking me, he did it. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that this dude did it. I mean, and I don't think he did it alone. I think that he did it. I think he did it with somebody else. I think he had a little help. Now that I believe that before he apparently, and this has been reported by a number of people, when he was arrested, the first thing that he said to the officers who were arresting him was, "Am I the only one you've arrested?" Which was very curious. And it plays into the whole idea of, is there somebody else out there? And also, there has been, there's a lot of citizen news about this guy. Like, there's a lot of news popping from people who went to school with him, people who knew him, people who have stories about him. So we're getting information through those channels. What we're not getting still is any information from authorities about what they have, about possible motive, about why they found him why they first marked him as a suspect. We haven't heard any of that stuff yet. But the stuff that we have heard is it's him. He totally did it. Like, all of his friends are like, "Oh yeah, this is totally, I didn't obviously think it was him, but as soon as somebody said, 'Hey, Brian Koberger killed those kids,' I went, 'Oh yeah, that's totally something I can see.'" Like, the people who know him best are like, "Yeah, he's that's something he would do." He did it. He totally did it. Now, this is a weird thing I want to play for you. And I hope to gizzard that it works. Wait, maybe how could I play this? What's the best way for me to play it? Maybe I could play it this way. Hold on, give me a second here, folks. There is a true crime podcast. There it is. There's a true crime podcast that had been dedicating itself to this story. And they stream the podcast live, I believe, on Twitch. And then you can download it at a later date if you want to listen to it. But because they stream the podcast live, they actually they can take calls. And so they've been taking some calls about this. Here, let me see if I can find it. And a caller called into this podcast, and people who know Brian Koberger are saying that it's him. Hold on. There we go. So people who know Brian Koberger have heard this caller call into this true crime podcast about this situation, and they are saying that they believe it's him. So here, I've got the caller. Let's give it a listen. Okay. So here, this is a podcast that was about the Moscow murders. They took a call, and people who know Brian Koberger are saying, "That's him. That's him. He called." So here, let's listen to it.
What's going on? Not much, man. I found you today. I watched your live earlier, this afternoon and been watching this one, and the thing that strikes me kind of weird about all this is that I live in a college town, and I've worked with probably at least 10 Sigma Chi members, and
Sigma Chi is the fraternity that Ethan Chapin belonged to. Ethan and Zaina, his girlfriend, were at the Sigma Chi party hours before they were murdered. This caller to this podcast is throwing shade at Sigma Chi, trying to convince. His theory is that the Sigma Chi people did it. And by the way, he also I live in a college town. Brian Koberger lived in a college town. Anyway,
the one thing that every single one of them I feel like has asked me is, if you were going to kill somebody, how would you get away with it? And I just wonder if maybe this is nothing more than some kid in a fraternity trying to prove himself. And that was it.
So you said you worked with 5 or 6 Sigma Chi kids, and they asked you if you can kill somebody, they can get away with it?
Yeah.
Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Oh
and
my God!
I know that's a thing that just like maybe people say, trying to like have interesting conversation, but like just in my head, it's like it's always been these dudes that were in the fraternity. And so it makes me wonder if it's a thing that's in their like culture, that they ask to see how smart you are and whatever, and what kind of answer you come up with, and someone took it too far.
Oh wow! What kind of dudes would ask you that?
Yeah, you weirdo.
That's crazy as shit, man. That's an outrageous statement, man. I mean, I'd write their names down.
Yeah, man.
All right, so there you have it. That's a random caller to a podcast that was streaming live on Twitch. The podcast concerned the Idaho murders, and that caller called in, and people who know Brian Koberg are saying that's him. By the way, that's him. That's the murderer. The murderer actually called in to a live stream about the murders that he created, and he is actively calling in, trying to pin it on the fraternity party, on the guys at the frat party. So there you have it. Anyway, Brian Koberger was in a Pennsylvania courtroom today. I don't know if he's still in there. He may have been released or sent back. It was the extradition hearing to get him back to Idaho. The promise that we've been told is that once he is back in Idaho, then police can legally tell us what they believe the motive to be, what led to them, charging him, all of that kind of stuff. We still don't know that stuff. We still don't know. We've seen a lot of takes from citizen journalists and people who have, sort of a spare time hobbyists who like to look into this stuff, but we have heard nothing official. So that is what we're looking for today. We are looking to hear from the police in Idaho exactly what they have on Brian Koberger. All right. Skip Bayless is trending. Now, I don't really like to spend a lot of time on Skip Bayless because he's a piece of garbage. I seriously, I can't stand this guy. There's nobody in sports media that I hate more than Skip Bayless. And let me tell you, there are a lot of people in sports media that I don't have a whole bunch of love for. But at the top of that list is Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless is a piece of human garbage who has been a piece of human garbage for the better part of 50 years now. And he please, God, if there is an old man out there who needs to be ended, it's Skip Bayless. If there's an old man out there who tries to, I don't know, show how young and cool and edgy he is by being provocative needlessly to the extent that Skip Bayless does, let's just go ahead and let's send Skip Bayless to the farm. Right? Let's drive him upstate. Let's let him out of the car. Let him run free. Let's never see Skip Bayless again. Why is Skip Bayless trending? Well, there was a reason that I put all that out there. There was a reason that I just prefaced this story with my feelings about Skip Bayless because I don't want anybody to think that I like Skip Bayless. But Skip Bayless is in hot water. Skip Bayless does the show Undisputed every morning on ESPN with Shannon Sharp, his partner, and they're known to get into it. They're known to have screaming matches. It's, it's not a show that I watch because I cannot take Skip Bayless. It is a show that I do watch on clips. Like if there's a clip going around, I'll watch the clip, but I will not actually tune in to watch anything that Skip Bayless is a part of because he's a massive D-bag. So Skip Bayless last night, while Damar Hamlin was, being treated and we knew that he was in critical condition and all that kind of stuff, Skip Bayless was the first out of the box to tweet something about the complications that this situation brings towards NFL playoff scheduling. He was basically addressing that. He's immediately shocked. You need to be canceled. You need to be fired. By the way, I agree with all of those sentiments. I'm just not sure that I agree with them in this instance. I think that there's plenty of other things in the history of Skip Bayless that we probably should have taken action on. But no, we're just going to get him for this. So Skip Bayless tweeted this last night. Are you ready? In the middle of it all, this is what Skip. I want to make sure that you hear exactly what he tweeted. He tweeted, Skip Bayless, last night at 8:30 p.m., no doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game. But how? With a question mark. This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which suddenly seems so irrelevant. Okay, so that's what he tweeted. And he's being destroyed for it. Like, I read that, and you know what I thought when I read that last night? Because I still see Skip Bayless in my timeline. What I thought when I read that was my immediate take was, yeah, but that's not time to worry about that. That's it. That was it. That was the extent of my outrage. Skip Bayless has outraged me before with all kinds of ridiculous shit that he said. This didn't outrage me that much. I just thought, okay, it's not time for that. But he was being, it wasn't like, screw Damar Hamlin, let's get this game going, which is how it's being presented to people who may not have seen. Again, here's the tweet. No doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game, but how? He says no doubt, no doubt. That's, no doubt this is probably going to be postponed and, no doubt, like he's not arguing that it should be postponed. He's saying that, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that this game should be postponed. That's what he's opening with. But then he just goes into, the non-human aspects of the situation. The human aspect is, of course, the health of Damar Hamlin. But he then went into like the NFL scheduling thing, where he says, this late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome. And then he ends it with, which suddenly seems so irrelevant. He is not saying, he's being portrayed, and look at me defending Skip Bayless. I hate this about myself. I hate that I have to do this here, but I have to stay. Oh, Matt Gaetz is speaking. Giggity, giggity. I don't know. It was like bad to like, yeah, we don't need to worry about that now, Skip. Don't worry about it. That was my reaction to it. But holy shit, did he get hammered? He is just getting hammered for that. Bad taste? I don't even know that it's bad taste. Timing. I think it's a timing thing. I think that you don't do that at 8:30 when we're all clutching our pearls, worried about, did we just watch a 24-year-old athlete drop dead? Is that what we just saw? Like, that's the real concern. Although, as I admitted, I can have, I'm pretty smart. I got a good brain. I can do multiple things at once. Like, I can be thinking about multiple things. I was thinking about that too. I was thinking, my God, they postponed this game. I go, what are they going to do? That's good. But then you immediately go back to, the humanistic side of it where you're like, oh God, I hope he's okay. But that doesn't change the fact that the NFL offices right now, do you think the NFL offices aren't in emergency meetings right now trying to figure out exactly are they being awful? No, they're just doing their job, man. Life has to go on. This was a tragedy. This was a terrible thing that we all saw. We were all emotionally shook by it. But when we are emotionally shook by things, we do require certain people to not be. We require certain people, when we're on a cruise ship and we see that iceberg coming, we're allowed to be emotionally shook. I don't want the captain to be emotionally shook. I want the captain to be taking care of shit. So there are things that need to be done. And he addressed it, I will say this, at a time that he shouldn't have. He probably, with his platform, as big as it is, he probably shouldn't have said that then. Today, plenty of people are saying the exact same thing that he was saying. This morning, I read blue checks from Schefter, from all of these people talking exactly about what the NFL is going to do now with the schedule. And none of these people are being canceled. None of these people. Why? Because timing. It's timing. That's all. That's really what this is. Skip Bayless did not say anything terrible. He didn't wish any ill will towards DeMar. He didn't say anything that would make you think he doesn't give a shit or care about human life. No, he just, in fact, anyway. So the aftermath of that is that Shannon Sharpe, Skip Bayless's partner on Undisputed on ESPN, didn't show up for work today. He didn't show up. In protest, boycotting the tweet that his partner put up there, which, by the way, is still up there, which is just, he's such a dick. Skip Bayless is such a dick. You should take it down. A normal person would go, you know what? My timing was screwy on that. I really feel bad. You take it down and then you say, yeah, sometimes I get it wrong. I should have just kept my mouth shut. We don't need to be talking about that yet. I'm sure that there are greater minds than me working on this right now. Something like that. But he didn't do that. He just left it up. So Shannon Sharpe refused to show up for work today in protest, which, again, seems like a very big day for NFL news. Maybe Shannon Sharpe would have liked to have been a part of the show today, but instead he's going to grandstand. And yeah, I do consider it grandstanding. When I will not appear with Skip Bayless today. Okay. How about you do appear with him? Because, it's your show too. How about you do appear with him and maybe you kick him off the show? Maybe he's the one that you banned from the show. It is Undisputed with Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless. Why are you not showing up? Why are you ceding the high ground to him? Why are you giving him the platform so that he can hem and haw and apologize and do whatever it is that he did today? He did. Why? Because Shannon Sharpe not showing up creates a news cycle with the name Shannon Sharpe most prominently displayed in the word cloud. Because Shannon Sharpe and, his integrity and all that, that's all it is. That's all it is. Shannon Sharpe should have showed up today to do his show, and he should have laid into Skip Bayless for doing what he did last night, for having the bad timing, but he didn't. And now it's all about, isn't Shannon Sharpe a glorious man of integrity? No, he's not. No, he's not. He's just now seen an opportunity to be the good guy in this situation, and he's going to take that social cachet that comes along with it. Skip Bayless answered for Monday night's insensitive Twitter post on this morning's Undisputed. He didn't have his usual co-host by his side. Shannon Sharpe was notably absent from the, I keep calling it ESPN. It's not. It's FS1. Was notably absent from the FS1 debate show Tuesday. Obviously, my partner Shannon Sharpe is not here today, Bayless told viewers. I look forward to seeing him tomorrow. Almost everyone put football aside after Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin had a cardiac arrest on the field during Monday night's game. However, Bayless caused controversy by wondering how the NFL would reschedule a game with playoff implications so late in the season. Again, he just thought of something that I guess didn't fit the narrative of what was acceptable by the mob. And, the mob came for him. And the mob is a thing. Even though I cringe every time I hear Aaron Rodgers talk about the woke mob. It's, stop it. But there is a mob out there. It ain't just a woke mob. There's a MAGA mob out there, too. There is a mob out there. They coming for you. He later said that he was sorry if people misunderstood his point. Bayless says, his health is all that matters. Again, everything else is irrelevant. I prayed for him and I will continue to pray for him, he said. The polarizing pundit sniffled at the start of Tuesday's Undisputed, saying he's still shook up and wrecked by what he saw happen to Hamlin. No, he's not. No, he's not. Because I'm not. Because you know what? I believe that I'm 100 times more sensitive to the human condition than Skip Bayless is. I absolutely guarantee that, just based on the things that I've seen Skip Bayless put out there on his show throughout the years. So fuck you, Skip Bayless. You're not still shook by it, okay? It's troubling, but he starts off the show. I'm still so... No, you're not. Stop it. You're so insincere. God, it's so gross, these performative assholes. Perhaps Sharp wasn't on board with the plan. Nobody could blame him for not wanting to put up with Bayless and shout about trivial sports topics today. Yeah, but that's not what the show is going to be, okay? They weren't going to talk about trivial sports subjects because right now, today, the main sports subject is anything but trivial. Shannon didn't show up because he didn't think it was appropriate to be talking about, free agency today. They weren't going to talk about that today. There was obviously one story, and maybe Shannon Sharp, as a former player, maybe his point of view, maybe his opinions might have been appreciated. Maybe he could have put Skip in his place. I've seen the show. He ain't putting Skip in his place. Anyway, that's why that is happening. Hey, here's more fun stuff that's happening to some truly bad people. Hey, folks, Dana White is trending. Oh, yeah. Dana White's not a good person. Dana White is not a good person. I've known Dana White for 21 years now. Well, not known. You can't say that because if I haven't spoken to him in 15, then it's, you know what I mean? It's not like we're friends. Dana White used to do my show all the time because we were very big on UFC in the early days. And this was before Dana White was Dana White. Dana White was just guy that we were going to have on. Who is he? He's the president of the UFC. Is he? He's okay. So he's going to come on. And we did a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of deals with the UFC back in the early days. We went on trips. We took a busload of listeners to a fight, some UFC card, and where was it? I think it was Louisiana. Yeah, it was. It was in Louisiana. We did another one where we went to Oklahoma. I mean, I've been to UFC fights here in Dallas. I've been to a UFC fight. I mean, I'm a big UFC fan. Dana White's an asshole, though. I mean, Dana White's not a good person. If you talk to any fighters, if you talk to any people who have actually been in his orbit, he's not a good person. He's a really bad person. He's a bad guy. He's a dickhead. He's arrogant, and he gets what he wants by taking what he wants. That's the kind of human being he is. But I do like the UFC. So, I'm sure that a lot of you. But I thought Dana White was your hero. He's not my hero. My hero? What? What are you kidding me? So Dana White is trending. Dana White, I don't know. How do I say this? New Year's Eve, Dana White was in Mexico with his wife. They were at a club, and here we'll just show you. Let's see here. There it is. Because he's Dana White and because he's famous, he was up there in what we'll call the VIP section, maybe of the club there in Mexico with his wife. And some people were filming him with cameras because, hey, that's Dana White up there. Let's film Dana White. Well, this is what they filmed. This is Dana White and his wife in a club in Mexico, and this is why Dana White is trending today. Now, I'm going to take the sound down on this because it's really muffled and really just loud club music. But here you go. So there, I guess, are we sharing? Yeah, you can see it. Okay. So you see Dana White. There he is. There's Dana White. Hold on. And that is his wife to his right. The woman there with the shoulderless dress on with the dark hair. Okay, so that's Dana White. That's his wife. Let's see what happens. Oh, his wife just smacked him. Did we catch that? His wife just gave him a smack. Boom, right there. Wife gave him a boom. Oh, boom, wife gives him a smack. Oh, now everything, the measure of the man is dependent on the reaction. What happens next? Let's see. What do you think happens next? How do you think Dana White handles his wife smacking him in public like that? Hey, he smacks her right back. Not just once. Now he's poking at her. And now you can't really see. Now he's got her. Now she's on the ground and he's staring at her. People are pushing him back. Let's watch that again. Boom. Wife slaps him. He slaps her right back. Slaps her a second time. She's now got her hands out. Now they're full on brawling. She's down on the ground. He's looking at her on the ground. Now they've just picked her up. I know it's hard to see. Look at this. Yeah, so there you have it. So Dana White, the man who once said to a room full of UFC fighters, any of you ever raise your hand to a woman, there is no coming back from that, and you will have no place in the UFC. Yeah, he said that a number of years ago after a whole bunch of UFC fighters were getting involved in domestic disputes with their wives and girlfriends. Dana White went on record, no man opens his hand. That looked like that did not look like something, that looked very natural for him. Dana White, his reaction to slapping his wife who had slapped him, it seemed like maybe something that he'd done before. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, the big issue with Dana White now is that you see Dana White doesn't work for Zuffa anymore. Dana White used to be an owner of Zuffa, and Zuffa was the company that owned and operated the UFC. Zuffa has been sold. Zuffa sold to Endeavor for like $2.5 billion. Dana White works for Endeavor. Dana White is the president of the UFC, but he works for Endeavor. And Endeavor is a big money, hedge fund backed talent and sort of, it's an agency. It's like an agent, like the William Morris agency kind of thing. Endeavor owns the UFC. Endeavor's going to fire Dana White. Dana White is going to be gone from the UFC. You do not come back. He could have survived this video of him smacking his wife. He could have survived it if it was still Zuffa, if they hadn't sold to Endeavor for $2.5 billion. But he works for a much larger company now, a company that has ties to everything from Disney to I don't know. I just know the Disney tie up to UFC. Anyway, they have ties with everything. There is no way that Dana White is going to be allowed to stay president of the UFC after this video emerged of him smacking up his wife. So there you have it. But guess what? That's all right. Dana White will just go start some shady fly-by-night competitor to the UFC. Who knows? He also has a new league, which is such terrible timing on this. He has a new slap fighting league. That's right. Dana White has a side hustle, and it's called Ultimate Slap or whatever. And I don't know if you can see these videos on YouTube. Just do slap fighting. And it's basically he's bringing slap fighting into, the sports universe where people just slap each other. And Dana White slapping his wife right there. Harry and William are trending. Harry and William, of course, Harry and William. They don't like each other. Harry and William, King Charles's kids. By the way, I'm having a much more difficult time remembering that it's now 2023 than I am remembering that it's now King Charles. King Charles is coming pretty naturally to me. Remembering that it's no longer 2022 is not. I'm still struggling with that. William and Harry hate each other. They're brothers. They don't like each other. They're fighting. They're fighting about a book that Harry's got coming out. And Prince Charles is getting involved. He's had enough of this. He wants his two sons to be friendly and whatever. There you have it. So that's why they're trending. Hawaii is trending. Hawaii is trending because there was a big magnitude. That's not big. Never mind. Forget it. 3.8 earthquake in Hawaii. Not a big one, but it is trending for that reason. Hawaii trending because there's an earthquake. American pessimism. There's a new poll that was released today that talks about how Americans are looking at the year 2023. Americans, no surprise there, largely pessimistic about U.S. prospects in 2023. I want to see the headline from the year that said Americans largely optimistic about U.S. prospects in 20, and then fill in the date. We've never been optimistic. We are not. Humanity is not. You know why? You want to know why? Because self-defense and self-preservation are really the only thing that is completely burned into our souls. That is, when push comes to shove, the desire for the human complex to actually defend itself in life or death or survive or have a will to survive is really, really kind of our core thing. being optimistic about the unknown in 2023 and what 2023 is going to bring is the unknown. So being optimistic about the unknown requires a leap of faith. It requires you to go, I'm probably not going to have a bad time. I'm probably not going to be, injured or killed or have any sort of threat to me. So I'm going to choose to look at this coming year optimistically. So that's a lot of work. You know what's not a lot of work? Looking at it pessimistically. Why? Because we go there naturally out of self-defense. We look at everything side. Is that dangerous? I don't know what's coming in 2023. I don't know what to expect, so I'm going to. Everybody, grab your guns, grab your weapons. We don't know what's coming. What's that's what it is. That's what pessimism is. Pessimism is you going, I don't know. I'm a little worried. I don't know what that is. I don't like it. Optimism is, hey, who's that stranger I've never seen before? Hi, right? That could be dangerous because that's so. Anyway, don't give me this bullshit about how this is some kind of Americans are so pessimistic heading in. This is just a barometer on how we feel. This is how we always feel. Humanity is pessimistic over optimistic because being optimistic comes with risk. You have to risk it not turning out well. Meanwhile, if you just assume it's going to be bad, you can be prepared for it to be bad. And if it turns out to be good, you're pleasantly surprised. That's humanity. We are not optimistic. We are pessimistic. We're also not good. We're bad. We are born bad. Everybody's born innocent. No, we're not. You ever been around a 2-year-old? 2-year-olds just want what they want. They don't give a shit about anybody else. They're just completely self-centered. That's who humanity is. Self-centered, self-preservation. It takes work and effort to be a decent human being. It takes work and effort to care about somebody else when there is absolutely nothing in it for you. So yes, of course, Americans are largely pessimistic because humanity is largely pessimistic. It's just built into our defense system. We don't welcome the unknown. We are suspect of the unknown. What else do we have here? Ken Block. I don't know who Ken Block is. Ken Block is a professional snowmobile driver, professional snowmobile racer. He died. He went snowmobile racing, and apparently he flipped over his snowmobile, and it crushed him. And apparently he was a big name. I mean, look, as big a name as there can be in professional snowmobile racing. I mean, I've never heard of the guy, but apparently he has a whole bunch of sponsorships, and there you go. Ken Block, professional snowmobile racer, world champion, apparently. He died in a snowmobile accident. He apparently that flipped over on him. He was alone too, which makes you wonder how long was he out in the middle of nowhere before somebody. They said that he was out riding with a group of people, but he had gone off on his own. And then when he didn't come back, they went looking for him and they found him. He was crushed underneath his snow machine. Although I call them snowmobiles. All right. What else do we have here? World's tallest man. We got a world's tallest man situation going on here. That's right. They think they have identified the new world's tallest man. He is 9 feet 6 inches tall. He lives in Africa. Of course he does. He's from Ghana and he's 9 feet 6 inches tall. But they don't really, he's got giantitis. So like he's grown like 3 feet in like the last 10 years or something. I don't know, whatever. But there you have it. There's a new world's tallest man. He is 9 feet 6 inches tall and he's a big giant dude. I feel bad for him. I'm looking at it here. I'll show you a picture of him. There's, it's can't be easy being this guy because when you get that tall, you're not like, where is he? There he is. Here's some pictures of him. When you get that tall, your hips don't work right. It's not good. There he is. The Ghanaian giant, they're calling him. All right, so there you have him. He's wearing that crazy shirt. Where do dudes in Africa get those shirts? Yeah, those kinds of shirts. You see a lot of dudes in Africa wearing those kinds of shirts. Those look like, I wouldn't wear them. They're ugly as shit, but there are a lot of those kinds of shirts in Africa. Let's see if there's any other pictures of him. Oh, there he is. There he is in that crazy shirt. Look, he looks nice. Well, he looks like he's in pain, doesn't he? He just looks like it just hurts to be him. This poor guy. There he is sitting down. This dude's probably like 6'3", and he's just sitting down. He's still taller than him sitting down. Man, that's gonna suck. Oh, what is that? Does he have a hump on his back? See, everything about this looks. It don't look that big. How big is that car? He's 9 feet 6 inches tall. There he is with like normal guys. Oh man. All right. Well, hey, good for you. He's smiling. I mean, he has moments of joy in his life, so let's just not feel terribly bad for him all the time, right? All right, there we have it. All right. That's going to do it for all the stuff that I have prepared for you for today. I want to get back and watch more of the nonsense that's going on in the House of Representatives, because that's going to be happening. Before we leave, though, I do want to read something to you. For those of you who listen to the nighttime show, Pugs and Parker, you know that we lost a contributor to the show, Rebecca. Rebecca was our trans friend who used to come on and talk to us and hang out with us on Wednesdays. We had to stop doing the Wednesdays with Rebecca just simply because there was too much of a delay on the signal. And whenever we try to get a third person on the show goes to shit. But Rebecca in her younger years was known as John Osterland, who was a New Orleans radio personality, and our own James Parker was his best friend. They were partners on the radio. They worked together. They were buddies. They hung out, and that's how we came to know Rebecca on the show. I wanted to read a little article here that came out. This is from NOLA online, NOLA.com, whatever, the big newspaper there down in New Orleans. Here's what they wrote. Rebecca Pratt, New Orleans radio personality known as John Osterland, dies at 55. Transgender woman, formerly known as John Osterland, was hired by WRNO in 2008. Rebecca Pratt, a former New Orleans radio personality known for an outspoken on-air style and deep connection to listeners, has died at the age of 55. Pratt was found dead in her apartment on Thursday, according to police log. The cause and manner of death have not been determined. We do know from our close connection to the situation that the cause of death was complications from not treating your diabetes. Rebecca had diabetes, and John had it first, and then Rebecca kept it. And according to James, wasn't real responsible with taking care of the diabetes and all that kind of stuff. Drawing on previous stints in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, Pratt brought a rock and roll mentality to the comparatively staid airwaves of New Orleans talk radio. Said Michael Kastner, WRNO's morning host at the time. One regular feed, Pratt was admired by other hosts for her nonstop wit, Kastner said. Fellow radio station employees didn't escape the banter. Kastner said that Pratt had something inappropriate as a nickname for pretty much everyone in the building. Not faking it. Her words sometimes landed her in hot water. In Boston, one talk radio station fired her after she made an offensive comment about Palestinians. The station said that she had said Palestinians have to go during a conversation about suicide bombings. Off the air, Pratt sometimes broke what Kastner described as the first rule in radio by getting drinks with listeners. Okay, that's not I've never heard that before. I've been in radio a long time. That is not the first rule of radio. First rule of radio is never get drinks, never socialize with the animals. What kind of fucking bullshit is that? My entire life in radio, and let me tell you, I have worked. Everybody I've worked for in radio, and this everybody that I have worked for and learned under in radio is in the Hall of Fame. Is in the Radio Hall of Fame. Kevin Matthews going in this year. Congratulations. All of them had drinks with listeners. All of them were good. The whole reason that Kelly and I, when we first moved to Dallas, were so, let's hang out with listeners. We don't know anybody here in this town. Why not get to know the listeners? It's the first rule of this arrogant. Look, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm going to have to ask James about this. Who is this Michael Kastner? The first rule of radio is that you don't have drinks with the listeners. Fuck you. What are you, better than the listener? I hate that. I hate that whole attitude. A lot of people are fake out there, said James Parker, another former colleague of Pratt. He added, she wasn't faking it, and I think people could tell. Pratt's run on WRNO came to an end in 2015. Her next stop was on rock station KKBU, a return to her roots as a record spinner. No longer on the air at the time of her death, Pratt told friends about her gender transition about a year ago, Kastner said. Pratt spoke about her transition in an online radio appearance with Parker back in May. I know she would love for everybody to know the truth, Parker said. They have to press Parker on that tonight. I don't know what he means by that. What do you mean should know the truth? What is the truth? Very interesting because in the world of talk radio, she was on, well, it was always John Osterlin was the guy who had the radio career. And he had a radio career. And I've always found this fascinating. I even said this to her. It's a trans person who actually does conservative right-leaning talk radio. Man, I don't know why they didn't push that. I don't know why Rebecca, and because that seems like something that could get you a job. If you are a right-wing conservative talk station and you've got a trans person who is also right-wing and conservative, I mean, that's a curiosity. That's interesting. And they never really pursued that. Anyway, Rebecca died. We talked about that yesterday. If you want to hear James's full tribute to John Osterland / Rebecca Pratt, you can hear it. Pugscast. You can just go to last night's show. We talk all about the details and all that stuff. So that's it. We got nothing else. Thank you all so much for being with us today on the noon show. Hold on. Let me get to the theme. I'm not ready. We will come back again tonight at 9 o'clock for Pugs and Parker proudly present Pillow Talk on the Radio Misfits podcast platform. We do that every Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Central Time. So come on, go do the rest of your day, go accomplish something, and then meet back here at 9 o'clock and let us know what you did. Never-ending quest. There we go.
I have got my poetry.
It's Adam. I love Adam. You can still call her she, even if their identity changed. I don't think you have any right to tell me how to address someone that I knew that you didn't. And what makes you the expert on this? Nobody's the expert. You're just pushing what you think is right, and you're saying that it's gospel. I don't know if that's true. No, you're awesome, Al. No, you're awesome, Adam. No, you're awesome, the goat. No, you're awesome, Jeff Glenn. Hey, Jeff, have you been in here all day? I started out the show saying that I haven't seen you in a while. Is this your first time back? You know, maybe it's because he's not banned anymore. Maybe it's because I'm not recognizing his real name. which is Jeff Glenn. I'm used to seeing Jefferson Glenn, right? Because Jeff gets in a lot of trouble on the social media platforms. He gets kicked off and banned from a lot of them. So he has to create fake names. But it's nice to see we're starting 2023 off with Full Metal Jeff Glenn. That's good. Clean slate in 2023. Let's see how long you can hold on to this handle, Jeff, before he's got to change it to Jefferson Glenn. Adam, you are not an expert on trans. You are a very hyper-politicized left-leaning guy who believes that the way you see it is the way it should be done. So I'm not going to have this conversation with you because I don't adhere to that bullshit. You know what I adhere to? Just be decent and nice to people. That's all. And if they're decent and nice back, they will forgive me any missteps in pronouns or anything like that because they will be able to sense that I'm not judging them or have any sort of preconceived notions about the kind of person they are. That's how I am moving forward. I love you guys. No fucking rule book. Oh, don't call them that. Fuck you. Call them whatever they want. And if they have a problem with it, they can tell me and we can talk about it. And then I can say, you know what, if that offends you, I am going to do my level best to not offend you. Because, again, I'm just trying to be a decent person. It's you people with your rules and your sticks of discipline that are screwing it up for the rest of us who are just trying to get along. I love you. See you tonight at 9 o'clock for Pillow Talk with me and Parker. Bye.
I can smile a little now. Things are going.
By the way, as I look at the TV, very high possibility that we might do a pop-up show later in the day. So hit subscribe. See you. Bye.